And welcome aboard. You're part of the A game tonight here with myself and the guy next to me. Let me tell you a little bit about him just in case you're not sure. About 25 years ago, we actually first met. He visited my radio station I was working at called FM 1063 WHDG. And he was promoting a little album, which I can't believe you really do have the cassette sealed. I can't believe this. Show this.
It's right here.
Oh, my God.
This is it. I don't know. Yeah.
That's Whirligig. That's
right.
the ticket. That's where it all started. And now 25 years later, it's like deja vu all over again, because that's when I first met John. He came by my station. We totally clicked. And over the years, we've kept in touch. And then I said, you want to do this with me? And he's like, sure. So I say to you, John
Sure.
Faye, thank you for bringing your A game. Thank you for doing
What's
this.
up,
How are you,
Rob?
man?
How you been, man?
I'm doing okay, man. How you holding up during all this craziness?
How do I look like I'm holding up? I mean,
Pretty good, actually.
Right, I mean, I dressed for the day, which is a big plus.
That's always a plus. Absolutely.
Yeah. Some days I don't, so today's a good day.
I'm trying to think back to the time when 1995 comes around, and and I should say this, before John and the Caulfields got started, I remember seeing something in my radio station collection. We had a local show that was going on, and you were promoting this band called, if I remember correctly, was it the Beat Clinic?
Yes, that was the precursor to the Caulfields. So yeah,
right. So I was like, I kind of knew what he was doing, and then all of a sudden, it's like he comes to the studio. I'm like, he kind of looks familiar, and I remember it was, I think it was Jeff Raspy who's working with us, actually digs it up and kind of shows you, like, and you're like, oh my God.
Much to my horror. Yes.
Yes. And speaking of horror, let's go back 25 years, because the hit was Devil's Diary, and then there was the moment in video form. Christian, go to photo 1, please. I should mention John was 15.
Great shot.
Yes,
what a great shot. Yeah.
You were 15 in that video, so happy 40th birthday, buddy.
Thank you so much. It feels great to be finally hit 40.
But dude, you really did look like you were a teenager back then. I mean,
well, it's all in the mentality, Rob. It's like, I feel the same. I feel the same way right now.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it is so weird to kind of, obviously in the 25th anniversary of anything, you get very sort of introspective about things, and just going back and remembering all the experiences that we had in that band has just, it's been a pretty wild ride this year so far.
Yeah, because you had planned on, before the pandemic hit, that it was going to be a reunion. You guys were going to go on the road and do the anniversary celebration of Whirligig, which produced Devil's Diary, which was, as I like to call it, the alternate hit that you had. And it was. I mean, you had.
Oh, it was. I mean, it was on the chart, Rob. So
absolutely. It was one of these songs that got everybody's attention. And the one thing that I do realize in the last couple of days when I posted about this podcast, I've seen radio people come out of the woodwork, ranging from Mike Peer, who at that time in '95 was the music director of The Edge in Dallas, who supported you.
Yeah.
Mitch Cry, who was part of the Zephyr in New Orleans at that point.
I remember all these names. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. One more, and I know you remember her, Marilyn Russell from WDRE in Philadelphia.
I still talk to Marilyn all the time.
I do too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, again, Philly and Delaware. That was the backyard. You grew up in Delaware, but
correct.
You made more of a mark in the Philly music scene because, well, the Philly music scene was the thing. Even though, you grew up, but go ahead.
But we were a Delaware band, but
right.
Like when the Caulfields started to kind of like make waves, I mean, Philadelphia was so embracing, or more embracing, just because of like stations like DRE, Y100, and so that combined with finally moving up here, and I've lived, in the suburbs of Philly for the last, quarter century, that kind of like solidified, kind of like where the focus of the band was. But I mean, we still say we're from Newark, Delaware.
That's great.
We practiced in my mom's basement for years, and that counts for the most, regardless.
It's like, Mom, we don't make it unless you gave us the time and the effort to allow us to rehearse here. That's a wonderful thing.
She didn't have too much of a choice. she put up with a lot, and I'm quite positive that we made we made her kind of deaf later in life, because I would come over to her house years after the fact, and her TV would be so freaking loud, dude. I would be like the angry old neighbor, like, turn that crap down. What are you doing? So,
what is wrong with you people?
You know.
Here's the thing, and I remember asking this question. This is scary that I remember asking the same question 25 years ago, because I was hooked on Devil's Diary like a lot of people, which is a great song. But the lyric, it's never good to be understood by a girl in acid wash. Does that still hold true 25 years later?
You know, I have backpedaled on that line a couple times in recent years, because I've known a couple girls who, you know, have been quite nice and wearing those kinds of pants. And I'm like, you know what? For you, I'll make an exception. Not to say that they, you know, I was understood necessarily. I was probably still quite misunderstood. But by the same token, you know, yeah, there's many lines, you know, like when I look back, you know, like, so for example, the Caulfields played like a little reunion show back in October as kind of a precursor. You know, we were playing at the Queen in Wilmington, Delaware.
Great venue, by the way. Yes.
For a cool event, you know, and it was the first time that we had like played Delaware in, you know, years. And, you know, I think I said on stage something like, you know, it's so fun / weird to re-inhabit these songs, because these are the songs of a man that is, like you said, like a teenage, like a kid.
Yeah,
know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, you know, a lot of the songs still ring absolutely true to me now as a AARP member, you know. But,
hey, I'm in the club. I understand.
But you know, it's just interesting to me to kind of like be that guy again on stage when I'm playing those songs, because you know it's not a complete, you know, connection. You know, it's like, oh, that's that guy. I kind of recognize that guy. But it's not the everyday me at this point. I think I'm less angry nowadays. But it depends. I was pretty pissed today about a lot of stuff. So.
Oh no! Do we want to go there?
No, we don't.
No. But to give a great example how your songs still ring true even 25 years later, I'm going to mention the song "Fragile," because I've actually been listening to that a lot lately, and with everything that's going on in the world today, the lyrics can be, and I totally tell everybody, if you got a chance to download this song, please do, especially during the pandemic. And if I can use some of the lyrics that you wrote 25 years ago, and if we all seem terrified, it's just because we are. We're fragile. Don't let us down too hard. Yeah. I mean, in a weird way, it takes a new meaning because
you just gave me a chill there, Rob. You just gave me a little chill.
I'm glad.
No, you know, a few weeks ago, as you know, so I've been doing these live Facebook streams on Monday nights, and every show has a theme. And I played Whirligig, or a bunch of songs from Whirligig on one of these shows. And singing that song felt very relatable.
Yes.
You know? I mean, I'm still struggling with those same things 25 years later. So I don't know if that speaks to the staying power of the song or the lack of growth on my part or what. But I still relate to that one a lot.
Yeah.
To your point.
I think it's just one of those songs that's always relatable to, at some point in your life, you know this feeling, you go through it, and it's just one of those songs that if it hits you at that point in your life, it's a song that sticks with you. And especially now, it's just amazing to me that the meaning of it now can take on an even deeper meaning because of everything we're all going through right now.
Yeah, no, it is pretty weird, you know, like sometimes it even happened with a couple songs I've written more recently. You know, they kind of meant one thing to me before March.
Right.
And when I play them now, I'm like, oh, well, that just took on a whole nother layer there. You know,
and,
so
it's
true.
Well, let me ask you this. With everything that is going on, if you start thinking about writing a song, I would imagine just life experiences will always affect how you write. But even the global situation is going on has to change your thought process a little bit to say, wow, okay, I don't know why I'm going here, but I got to go here because this is where my head and my heart is at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just inevitable, you know, to kind of absorb whatever life is throwing you. And at this point, like we're all being thrown the same kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, that said, like, I'm probably not the guy to like write a specific, hey, I'm quarantined type of song. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I kind of find that, you know, something that's like too topical and related so specifically to a situation that we know, hopefully in a year, will kind of be past it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But by the same token, you carry with you all the experiences and the feelings that you had going through it. So that's kind of how I think it's going to inform any future songs that I write.
John Faye, the lead singer of the Caulfields here on the A Game. Quickly, I got to shout out Sam Musumeci, Richie Rubini. They're your brothers in arms.
The Mooch. Yeah.
The Mooch. Yeah. I know the Mooch is listening. And by the way, Mooch, I saw your post about your food. I want delivery on that, by the way.
Yeah, good luck.
The boy, yeah, I know. But the boy can cook, apparently. I'm impressed.
He is a good cook, you know.
Absolutely.
That was one of the benefits of being in a band with a bunch of Italians, you know. Yeah. I mean, like, you get a good taste for things, and
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
One of the things that brought us together was this event called Surf Stock. Now, 25 years ago, we're out on a beach in Ortley Beach, New Jersey, and we got a couple of stills from that. I can't believe 25 years ago. Christian, show the one where he's performing on stage, please. There. That's well, that one. We'll get that one in a second. But there you are.
Now, I want any of my friends who are watching this, because I have been such a staunch advocate of no shorts on stage for years.
Right.
However, it comes from the hard experience of pictures like that showing up.
But you're in the spirit of the event. It's like
I was in the spirit of the event, but you know, I think, you know, probably like the mid '90s was probably the one time when somebody could get away with that, because I was also wearing my cool Doc Martens combat boots, and if I was wearing pants, they would not have been showcased in quite the same way. So
you still weren't as bad. Oh, now, Christian, show the other photo to embarrass myself. Please. There we go. Yeah. Look at me with the bandana. And there's Mooch right there, by the way, in the photo.
Yeah, we're all in it. And then the double bubble shirt. Wow.
I remember you saying, though, looking back, one of the fun things of 1995 was that event. I always thought that was a great compliment.
I loved it. I mean, look, it was a great event. You know, you were there. The Smithereens were there.
Yes.
Matt Pinfield was there.
He was.
I mean, it was like standing among, you know, greatness and playing to an audience with, like, you know, the ocean and the sand. And
yeah, exactly.
Super fun. And the other cool thing, Rob, is like, a lot of the people who I met through your radio station, I'm still friends with to this day.
That's great to hear. That is really nice to hear. Yeah.
And so it's, you know, you guys were among a handful of radio stations that we felt so close to and so supported by. You know, I mean, a lot of stations played us, but we didn't have like friendships necessarily with all that many people at radio. So, you know, but you guys were awesome.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that very much. And I know there's at least one or two other people. One who comes to mind, because I remember 99X in Atlanta, Leslie Fram really did champion you guys phenomenally back then.
Well, yes. So Leslie and the whole morning show down there, Steve Barnes became like one of our hugest advocates. In fact, after the Caulfields broke up, he was the one that kind of helped me kind of get back on my musical and career feet.
Oh, wow.
Because Leslie's husband, Lanny, eventually became my manager for the John Faye Power Trip years.
I never knew that. Wow.
Yeah. So I was spending lots of time down in Atlanta after that. And a lot of it is thanks to Barnes and, you know, those guys still believing in me after the whole, you know, debacle with the record company went down with the Caulfields. So,
I mean, is it still that feeling of like, you know, it's been so much time you can kind of let it go, but it's still that feeling of like, is there a what if that comes to mind? Because in my book, it's still top to bottom a great CD. Everybody should check it out, even 25 years later. I'm sorry, the music's still fantastic. Well, you almost get like it almost maybe fell through the cracks with A&M?
Well, to answer your question, we didn't really feel that Whirligig fell through the cracks necessarily. There was a lot of optimism after that record, and we did, pretty much everything that you could do to promote a band. We toured the whole country, Canada. They sent us to Australia where the song was a hit.
Yeah.
We were there for a month. So, we never felt like at any point that like the label was not doing right by us for the first album. One of the issues that kind of came up, a few issues that came up was that we kind of went with a booking agency that somebody at the label kind of steered us towards, when we could have gone with a very, very big name in the industry. And we were kind of like shuffled away from that because what I believe to be maybe personal reasons from this person who worked at the label, who was not a main figure in our world there. Like, we had a great A&R guy, we had a great product manager, and, all these great radio people who I think were the biggest supporters of the band of anybody who worked there. And, you probably remember guys like Fred Shade and Al Marks and people like that.
Yeah.
And, those are people that I still do have contact with also. So I guess, you can second guess anything, you know what I mean? Like, but the thing that I always come back to is I've met and played with so many great people who I love dearly since the Caulfields. I've been in, 3 or 4 different bands of my own.
Yeah, I'm about to say, if I can mention Ike real quick, who you did a few albums with, the Power Trip, obviously, and you had a duo at one point, if I remember.
Yeah, I had a duo called John and Brittany, which did really well. Yeah. And the thing is, I love the music that I did with Ike, and it's actually, the band that I have the most catalog with. There's 4 full-length records and an EP and a live record and a DVD. There's a lot of content that happened with Ike, and playing with the people that were in that band, like I wouldn't trade that for anything. I would not trade that for rock stardom with the Caulfields, to be honest with you.
That's saying something. That's saying something without question.
I'm perfectly fine with how things have wound up.
Yeah. And I know, and going back to your Monday nights that you've been doing on Facebook, you did some Ike material as well. So there's been if you want to follow John on Facebook, follow John Faye. You're going to do the Monday night thing for a while. And each night has been a theme. And one of the themes has been the Caulfields. It's been Ike. Even in a night of covers, which I thought was very entertaining. And if I can,
enjoyed those.
Christian, give me the photo of him in the hat, if you don't mind. It's the last photo that we have.
Yes.
I love that.
That was my Guilty Pleasures cover night. So we had...
which was great. I mean, there was a couple that I went, oh my God, I remember that song.
Why is he doing this? Yes.
Well, look, I'll admit I love Brandy as much as the next guy, but even then, I'm like going, I can't believe he's doing this. He's really doing this.
Listen, not only did I play it, but I extolled the virtues of the songwriting by like going back and like, this is the chord change in the bridge. Isn't this brilliant? That's how much I love Brandy.
The minute you came out in the hat, I'm going, oh, this is going to be a good night.
Yeah. That's a statement right there,
Oh, absolutely. But on Monday nights, you can follow John Faye on Facebook. And by the way, coming up this Monday, what's the theme going to be? Or do you don't know yet?
Well, I'm going to announce it at the end of the week, but I can tell you, I think I'm going to play some songs from the 90s that I like a lot.
Oh, very cool.
It's probably not going to be necessarily what most people associate with the 90s. You know what I mean? But it's, it'll be, I've got a Matthew Sweet song I'm going to do. I'm going to maybe do a Ben Folds 5 song.
Oh, nice.
I've got a pretty good variety of stuff. Toad the Wet Sprocket might make an appearance, So it'd be like my 90s,
Right. If you were listening to alternative rock in the 90s, this is going to be your night.
Yeah, like. I mean, there will be like a Nirvana cover, but like that's, when most people associate, like the association they draw in their minds of the 90s, it ends up being very heavily tilted toward grunge and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And that's not what this is going to be.
Well, the funny thing is, and I'm going to turn this back to the Caulfields. If you remember, when we look at the 90s, it started grunge, and then it started veering into a lot of different directions by about 94 to 97. There was a pop wave. There was a Lilith wave. There was a lot of different branches of alternative music.
Right.
And to me, I think it was the most fun era during that 3 or 4 year spike, because you didn't know what was going to happen on alternative radio, and it could come from any direction.
Yeah, no, and obviously that's what allowed a band like ours to have a song on the radio.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
and yeah. One more thing I should mention about the Caulfields. Back in the day, there was a movie that they actually got themselves on a soundtrack on. Christian, show the there we go, the Babysitters Club.
Isn't that cute? Yes, we had a song on the Babysitters Club, which I'm grateful for, because that yielded quite a royalty. As it
I was
turned
about
out.
to say, yeah. I mean, it gave you some money, and it gave exposure to Hannah, I Locked You Out, and it became at one point almost as popular as Devil Diary because of the movie.
Right, and that same song, Hannah, I Locked You Out, was also on an episode of Melrose Place, which if you'll recall, was quite a popular show.
Yes, it was. It just a tad popular.
So that was those are some things that I can really credit to A&M. Like, they're the ones that like really went out and like made those things happen, which was awesome. So
John Faye, the lead singer of the Caulfields, is here on the A Game. All right, this is how I always wrap up. The segment is called Random Shots. I got questions that come from anywhere. This is where I'll take a shot and say salute to you for coming on tonight.
Okay, salud.
Cafe Patron. Oh, boy.
Wow.
Right through the sinuses. I love it. Okay. So, knowing that you are a Delaware guy and a Philly guy at the same time, first two questions I think will make sense. All right. So, when it comes to Philadelphia, is the cheesesteak with or without?
Oh, it's always wit.
It's always with.
Yes.
See, I'm embarrassed to say I still have not done a Philly cheesesteak in Philly. Believe it or
not. Well,
I know. How dare I?
But here's the thing: like a lot of the touristy places, like I wouldn't recommend. Like Pat's and Gino's are no bueno.
All right. So give me a good recommendation. If I'm going to have my first cheesesteak in Philly, where am I going?
I would go to either Jim's on South Street, which is still touristy, but better than those other two.
I think I've walked by there a few times in the past.
Across the street from that called Ishkabibbles, which is a real little place, but they're excellent. And to be honest with you, and I have had many a late night discussion with my friend Mike Vivas, who's played bass in a lot of my projects and grew up in South Philly.
Right.
Actually, the Oregon Diner has an excellent cheesesteak.
And I'm all about diner. So this sounds encouraging.
And at 2 a.m. when we're both eating one of these things, he said it so eloquently. It was like, this is as good of a cheesesteak as you're going to get in the city of Philadelphia, just one level below the corner shop. So the corner shop, of course, is where you want to,
I guess.
But not quite the corner shop, but damn good.
Damn good. Okay, I got to keep that in mind.
Yes.
All right, so to the Delaware side, because as you know, I actually worked in Delaware radio for over 10 years.
That's right.
And when I got to Delaware, and one of the first things that a Jersey kid doesn't understand, I discovered Scrapple. Yay or nay on Scrapple?
I would say nay, and I don't even think that's a Delaware thing, to be honest with you. That's more of a Pennsylvania thing that bled into Delaware.
Yeah, it really did. But I mean, I remember the first time I tried it, it was like this thick globulin thing, and I went, what the hell is this?
I think if it's going to be tolerable, it's sliced thinner and basically burnt to a crisp. So
that's what I've noticed. Yeah, if you have it that way, it's actually edible.
Yes. But my college roommate, who I also went to high school with, he loves Scrapple so much that even when he went off to like graduate school in Florida, he would literally bring like an igloo cooler on the plane.
Oh my
full of
God.
Scrapple. I don't even know that that's permissible with the current TSA situation.
That's a good point.
Can you even bring a cooler of Scrapple on an airplane? I don't know.
It could be dangerous, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It wouldn't be
something to well, when you talk about Delaware, okay, so who is the biggest contributor to pop culture there? George Thorogood or Valerie Bertinelli?
Well, of those two, I would
Yeah.
say popular culture,
Yeah.
probably Valerie Bertinelli.
Mm.
But
That.
they've both been replaced by Aubrey Plaza at this point. You
Very good
know,
point.
yeah.
Yeah. That's again, see, you're learning about Delaware trivia tonight.
There
This is
you
a
go.
good thing.
I'll be your authority on all things pointless from the state of Delaware.
John, as you're talking about your upcoming performance on Monday night, you're talking about bands of the 90s that you're going to be covering. What would be considered, in your mind, one of the most underrated bands other than the Caulfields back in the day?
You stole my answer.
That's why I said other than the Caulfields. Yes.
Underrated.
Underrated, yeah.
Well, that's a good question. Probably Sloan would
Ooh.
be one of the bands that I think should be way bigger. But they're out there,
Canadian.
man. They
Yeah.
still tour. They play
Oh, wow,
like,
I didn't know that.
oh yeah, they actually just came to Philly not too long before the shit hit the fan. They played at the Boot and Sallow, and yeah, they're still around.
Yeah, I remember the single. They had a single called "Underwhelmed," band from Canada.
Yeah.
Great sound.
Yeah, I always dug them, and there were bands like the Posies, for example,
Oh
who I
yeah,
don't know
another
if you
good one.
remember them. I mean,
I do remember them.
they had a
Yeah.
couple radio hits, but the people that love the Posies are like, why isn't this band the biggest thing on earth?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, they had such a rabid fan base as far as that goes. Like, going, I can't believe these did not like the biggest thing in the world. What is going
Yeah,
on here?
and they were a Seattle band. They came up through the same club scene as Nirvana and all those bands. You know what's kind of cool, Rob? I have a nephew who lives in Seattle, and he's a musician there,
Oh,
and
wow.
he's actually great. And he's when I went around with him last summer when I was out there, it was almost like he was the mayor because like everybody knew him, and it was a really
Right.
cool thing to see your nephew. But he was playing in this band with the guitar player from a group called the Fastbacks. Do you remember them?
Vaguely,
They're
yeah. I
kind of
remember
like
the name.
they're like probably had stuff out in like 1990, like they're pre-Nirvana, but they're like, if you listen to their records, there's no, other than having a female lead singer, there's no discernible distinction between them and say like Blink-182. They were that
Oh,
pop
wow.
punk kind of thing, and they were
Right.
great. So my
Right.
nephew plays in this guy's band now, and he was on a bill at this club in Seattle, which to the men's room had no urinal, but it had a pile of ice in the corner.
Oh, jeez.
That's the kind of venue this was. That's what you peed in. But anyway, the headlining band was this super group that consisted of two guys from Mudhoney, a guy from Young Fresh Fellows.
Remember them, yes.
Like all this Seattle 90s pedigree. And they were incredible. And they were all playing power pop music.
Nice.
So that's like what those guys really love to do.
Right.
But I just thought, I was like, I cannot believe I'm in this absolute dump of a club with like these guys who were seriously like in heavy hitting 90s grunge bands.
Right. Exactly. It's like going last place. I didn't expect it in a shithole, but damn, I'm glad I got here.
No, it was a great experience. It was really cool.
Let me go back to that night you were doing covers. Favorite cover that you did that night, just to give us an idea. Was it Brandy or was it another
the Guilty
song?
Pleasures one?
The Guilty Pleasures one. Yeah. Give me a guilty pleasure of yours.
You know what was kind of fun to do? Like I played some songs that were in my older sister's record collection when I was real little. So I played a cover of Close to You by the Carpenters, which I was quite pleased at the reception of.
Well, you know what? As much of a diss as the Carpenters may have gotten, they did great songs. They just had great songs.
There's no reason to diss them, actually. It's like, that's the thing. It's like the guilt is all internal. There's no reason to feel guilty for liking anything you like, really. But like, it was not only great songs, but they were great musicians. You ever see videos of Karen Carpenter playing the drums? You should check that out.
Yes. You have a great point, John. I mean, amazing musician. And we all have that one guilty pleasure. I mean, for years, and I've said this for decades, the guilty pleasure albums for me, The soundtrack to Xanadu will always be my guilty pleasure. I mean, I know the movie sucked, but the soundtrack was amazing.
Hey, and I did an Olivia Newton-John song as well.
Yes, you did. I did catch that.
Have You Never Been Mellow? I would say like probably the guiltiest song of that night, because I did it more as a request to a guy that I just really know through Facebook.
Right.
Was the theme to The Greatest American Hero. Like, I probably would not have done that had it not been such a heartfelt request from this guy. And of course, I totally butchered it at the end by doing the George Costanza answering machine.
The funny thing is, there was that era of like shows that were on the air for 3 years, but the theme song went top 10. Go figure.
The theme song is still here.
Absolutely. John, as we get ready to wrap up, I know you've been working on a book. Can you give us an idea of what the book's about, and when do you think it might see the light of day?
Sure. So I started writing the book about I'm going into my third year of working on it, and it's a memoir. So it's got a lot to do with my childhood and my musical life. It's all kind of intertwined, but it basically, like, the premise of it is how music basically gave me a voice in the world. Because, I grew up, growing up in Delaware in the 1970s as a mixed race kid had its challenges. Let's just put it that way.
No, it's being honest. Absolutely.
And so the way that kind of music came into my life and provided me with this opportunity to kind of grow into myself is kind of like the overarching theme of the book. In addition to, tour stories about how, bad our tour managers' farts were and stuff, There's comic relief throughout.
Oh, yeah. No, but you know what? I'm glad it's going to be a good balance. And I think that's a great part that you're going to talk about, because it's funny. When we met, it was never just a thought of like, this is John. He's a great human being. I jive with him. I will talk to him anytime. I'll have a beer with him. Mm-hmm. It was never a thought of like you said, growing up in the 70s and being considered a mixed race person. It's like, I'm like, my father taught me well a long time ago. Yeah. There's two ways to judge a person. Either you're good or you're bad. That's it. That's all that matters. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, people have been obviously considerably kinder in my adult life, but the experiences you have as a kid, they form a lot of things within you, and they form your outlook, and they, so it was, and plus, I didn't really have a lot of role models,
Right. Oh, that's a good point.
There's not a, unless you're a huge, like, I don't even know like who my role model would have been in music that looked like me, Right. I mean, Big Head Todd. I don't know.
No, but we're laughing, but that's actually a good point.
He's more of a contemporary, maybe a couple of years older, but like, it wasn't like, there were, people that I could kind of relate to as actually, like, in the forward of my book, I wrote something like, the only people Asians that I knew in entertainment were, Pat Morita, who was Mr. Miyagi, but earlier Arnold on Happy Days.
Happy Days, of course.
And Bruce Lee, who was dead by that time. So
sad but true, yes.
So, that was all there was,
Right.
So, I mean, it was, so that's why kind of like music and rock and roll just became like such a foundational thing for me. Like, I don't think my story is quite the same as, I saw the guitar in the guitar shop hanging there and I knew that I just had to. That wasn't me.
Right.
I mean, like, it was a totally different reason why I came into wanting to play music, and how it kind of like got me through a lot of difficult periods. Because not only was I dealing with, whatever racial, social aspects were going on at the time, but I lost my father at a young age. Hence The Day That Came and Went, which is the Caulfields.
Right.
About that.
Absolutely.
So, I had a lot of stuff going on, to put it lightly. And so I really kind of dive into that in the book, and then eventually, progress to the point of my life where, I met guys like you, and music was just what I did,
Right. And like I said, I look forward to reading this because I think there's so much going on. And I hope this has actually been very therapeutic for you as well.
Yes, I would say that it has been,
Yeah.
I mean, just kind of diving back into those kinds of memories. And obviously, it's a different kind of writing completely from songwriting, which,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
you know, get one done in an hour and you're like, oh, I accomplished something. And now I'm like,
Right.
I
Third
literally,
year into it. Yeah. I
I
mean,
literally
exactly.
feel like I had a successful day if I come out of it with like 2 paragraphs for
Wow.
like an 8-hour day. And I'm like, yeah, these are good sentences. They ring true. They make me laugh, whatever.
Right.
And so it's a very much, it's requiring a lot more patience from me than I thought I even had, to be honest with you.
Well, I look forward to when that hits the daylight when it's done because I want to be
Thank
one
you.
of the first people to
My
read it.
goal is
Absolutely.
to have it be done by the end of this year. That's my goal.
Well, then fingers crossed. Let's hope for 2021 to be the year of a book and the year of the
Absolutely.
Caulfields back on the road to do this celebration the right way. I
Yes,
want to see that.
agreed.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ron.
John Faye of the Caulfields, thank you so much for doing this, my friend. I look forward to seeing you sometime soon when this pandemic alleviates a little more.
I had a blast. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Take care.